I signed the divorce papers that morning, the crisp rustle of the pages echoing the tumult within me. I sat in the sparse lawyer's office, where the only warmth came from a weak shaft of sunlight that battled through the thick, gray clouds outside. As I scrawled my name, I couldn't help but glance at my ex-husband. I watched as he, too, signed, his hands steady, his face a mask of indifference. I remembered how his eyes used to light up when he laughed, a stark contrast to the cold stranger before me now. My heart clenched at the memory, but I steadied my resolve. "It's done," my lawyer announced, a note of finality in his tone. I nodded, tucking the bittersweet freedom papers into my bag. I walked out of that office into the chill of an early spring morning, the sky a vast expanse of unyielding gray. I moved to a small coastal town 3 months after the divorce, craving the solitude and the soothing rhythm of the sea. My new apartment overlooked the beach, and I often spent hours watching the waves crash against the shore, finding a strange, rhythmic peace in their relentless perseverance. It was on one of these days, as I sat wrapped in a thick sweater on my balcony, that I first saw him. My neighbor Vital, with a gentle smile, walking his dog along the beach. I watched as the golden retriever bounded around him, full of life, and how he laughed, his whole face lighting up with joy. The sound drifted up to me on the salt-laden breeze, and for a moment, my world felt a little less heavy. Days turned into weeks, and our chance encounters became a series of brief conversations about trivial things that didn't feel trivial at all. On a particularly windy day, as the sea roared with more intensity, my neighbor knocked on my door. I opened it to find him holding 2 steaming cups of coffee, his hair tousled by the wind, a playful grin on his face. "I thought you might like some warm company," he said, his voice a soothing balm against the howling wind outside. I hesitated, the scars of my past still tender, but there was a sincerity in his eyes that felt disarmingly genuine. I invited him in, and we sat by the window, watching the storm rage over the ocean. I love storms, I confessed, my fingers wrapped around the comforting warmth of the cup. They remind me that even chaos has a rhythm, a beauty. He nodded, his eyes never leaving mine. "I feel the same," he replied, "there's something renewing about them, as if the world is washing away the old to welcome the new." Our conversation meandered through our pasts, our hopes, and the subtle ache of our shared loneliness. As he spoke, I found myself drawn to the ease of his presence, to the thoughtful way he chose his words. It was a slow, unfolding connection, one that crept up on me like the tide, gentle yet persistent. As he got up to leave, the storm outside had calmed, and so, it seemed, had the storm within me. I watched him stand, the line of his shoulders silhouetted against the dimming light outside the cafe window. I hesitated before asking, "Will I see you tomorrow?" My voice came out softer than I intended, wrapped in the vulnerability of my hope. He paused, his hand on the back of the chair. "Would you like that?" His eyes searched mine, and I found myself nodding, unable to articulate the multitude of reasons why I did. "Then it's a date," he said, with a smile that reached his eyes and warmed a corner of my heart I thought had gone cold. I watched him leave, his figure gradually blending into the evening mist that had settled over the streets. I wrapped my hands around the now cold coffee cup, the remnants of his warmth lingering like a promise. I spent the rest of the evening in a haze, my mind replaying our conversation, analyzing every word, every pause, every look. I prepared dinner but found I had no appetite. My stomach was filled with a fluttering that seemed to consume all other sensations. Later, as I lay in bed, I stared at the ceiling, the shadows there dancing like the thoughts racing through my mind. I imagined what tomorrow would bring, what I would wear, what I would say. The possibilities stretched out like the stars hidden behind the city's light pollution, numerous and fraught with the unknown. My phone buzzed, and I jolted, my heart thumping wildly. I reached for it, my fingers trembling slightly as I saw the message light up the screen. It was him. "Can't wait for tomorrow," smiley face. I read and reread the words, each syllable amplifying the tingling excitement that coursed through me. I typed a response, erased it, typed another, and finally settled on, "Me too," smiley face. I set the phone down, my smile lingering as I drifted off to sleep, wrapped in the sweet anticipation of what was to come. I chose my outfit carefully the next morning, settling on a floral dress that swayed softly around my knees, the fabric light against my skin as if echoing my buoyant mood. I met him at the park, where the early autumn leaves painted the ground in bursts of fiery oranges and soft yellows. He was there before me, sitting on a bench, a book in hand. I approached quietly, my heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. He looked up, his smile immediate and wide, causing my own lips to curve in response. "You look beautiful," he said as I sat beside him. His comment sent a warm flush across my cheeks. "I wanted to look nice for today," I admitted, tucking a stray hair behind my ear. "We don't need a special occasion," he said softly, turning to face me. His gaze held mine, intense and gentle all at once. "Every moment with you feels special." I felt my breath catch, and I was thankful for the cool breeze that seemed to understand my need for composure. We talked then, about everything and nothing, books, movies, our dreams, the trivialities of our daily routines gaining an extraordinary sheen when shared. I found myself leaning in, drawn to the magnetic sincerity in his voice. As the afternoon waned, I realized that this was what I had been missing, a connection that felt as natural as breathing, as essential as the beating of my heart. I looked at him, this man who had walked into my life unexpectedly but now held a piece of it so tenderly, and I knew I was no longer afraid of what tomorrow might bring. I felt the warm breeze brush against my skin as we walked down the cobblestone streets of the old town. My hand rested lightly in his, a comforting weight that grounded me to the present moment. I couldn't help but absorb the lively chatter around us, the laughter of children playing in the distance, and the gentle clinking of glasses from the nearby cafes. It was as if the whole world were celebrating this newfound joy that I held within me. "I never imagined I'd find myself here," I confessed, my words floating between us like the delicate petals that fell from the overhanging blooms. He squeezed my hand gently, his eyes reflecting the soft glow of the street lamps. "Life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it?" he mused, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. I nodded, my heart swelling with a mix of hope and wonder. "I used to fear surprises," I admitted. "But now, standing here with you, I think they might be the most beautiful part of life." His laugh was low and comforting, resonating with my own feelings. "Let's promise to keep surprising each other, then," he proposed, and I could see the earnestness sparkling in his gaze. "I'd like that," I whispered, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. I watched him as he prepared dinner, his hands moving skillfully over the ingredients. The kitchen was filled with the rich aroma of garlic and basil, and a soft jazz tune played in the background, adding a layer of warmth to the room. I leaned against the counter, my eyes never leaving him, captivated by the simple elegance of his movements. "Want to taste?" he asked, holding out a spoon draped in the rich, crimson sauce. I stepped closer, my heart pounding slightly faster as I accepted the spoon. The flavor burst on my tongue, a perfect blend of spices and sweetness. "It's wonderful," I murmured, my eyes meeting his. "That's because I had the best sous chef," he teased, his eyes crinkling with amusement. I laughed, the sound mingling with the music, creating a melody that was uniquely ours. "I think I only chopped one tomato," I retorted playfully. "To me, it was the most important tomato," he replied, his tone light yet somehow profound. I felt a warmth spreading through me, a sense that everything was right in the world. As he plated the food, I set the table, and we moved together in a silent dance of familiarity. It was new yet felt as if it had been ours for years. Later, we sat on the small balcony, plates cleared and a gentle night wind whispering around us. I pulled my knees up, wrapping my arms around them as I looked out at the twinkling lights of the city. He sat beside me, his presence a comforting pillar in the soft darkness. "I used to dream about nights like this," I told him, my voice a soft confession under the stars. Simple, quiet moments filled with genuine laughter and heartfelt conversations. He reached out, his fingers brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "I'm here to share as many of these nights with you as you want," he whispered back. I turned to look at him, the city lights casting shadows that danced across his face. "What if I want them all?" I asked, my heart beating a tentative rhythm of hope and fear. His smile was gentle, the curve of it more tender than any promise. "Then I'll give them all to you," he replied, his voice firm with resolve. I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. I knew that the road ahead might not be easy, but with him by my side, I felt like I could face it. Tonight, though, I would simply live in the moment, this beautiful, fleeting moment that belonged only to us. I let the silence between us stretch, the soft hum of the city at night wrapping around us like a velvet cloak. I watched as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper. I leaned closer, curiosity piquing my senses as I tried to decipher the words scribbled across it. "I wrote you something," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, tremulous with vulnerability. I could see the faint tremble in his fingers as he handed it to me. I unfolded the paper, the soft crinkling sound mingling with my accelerated heartbeat. As I read the words, a poem, raw and beautiful, etched in his uneven handwriting, I could feel my eyes beginning to moisten. Each line unfolded a piece of his soul, laid bare for me, and I felt my own walls crumbling, the emotional barricades I'd painstakingly built over the years. "I didn't know you wrote," I managed to say, my voice choked with emotion. "I don't, usually. But for you, I felt like I had to try." He looked away, his cheeks tinged with the soft glow of the streetlights mixed with a shy blush. I reached out and touched his hand, feeling the coarse reality of his skin against mine. "It's beautiful," I whispered, "just like you." The honesty in my words hung in the air, tangible and sincere. I suggested a walk, needing to move, to feel the rhythm of my steps syncing with his. We wandered through the quiet streets, our footsteps a soft echo on the cobblestones. I felt the cool night air brush against my skin, the gentle breeze playing with strands of my hair. It was a perfect night, the moon a sliver of silver in the dark sky, and I felt an overwhelming urge to stop time, to live in this moment forever. As we walked, I found myself opening up about my dreams, the ones I kept closely guarded, hidden under layers of daily routines and responsibilities. He listened, truly listened, his eyes never leaving mine, making me feel heard in ways I hadn't in a long time. "And what about you?" I asked, my curiosity piquing again. "What dreams do you harbor in the quiet corners of your heart?" He paused, looking up at the sky as if searching for his answers in the stars. "I dream of a life where I'm not afraid to take chances," he finally said, his voice soft but firm. "A life where I'm brave enough to be myself, completely and utterly." I squeezed his hand, feeling a kinship, a shared understanding of personal fears and silent hopes. Together, we walked, our shadows merging and parting under the streetlights, a dance of light and darkness. We ended up at a small, secluded park, the city sounds muted by the thick rows of trees surrounding us. I felt his hand tighten around mine as we stopped in front of a bench, the wooden slats old and worn, a silent witness to countless confessions and quiet conversations. "Can I ask you something?" he said, his voice serious, pulling me from my reverie. "Anything," I replied, my heart starting to pound with the weight of his tone. Do you think this could be something real? Us, I mean?" His eyes searched mine, looking for clues, for a hint of what might lie in my heart. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his question settle in my chest. "I want to believe it can," I said, my voice barely a whisper, but honest. "I feel something with you that I haven't felt in a long time. It scares me, but it feels right." He pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me in a warm embrace, and I rested my head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "It scares me too," he murmured into my hair. "But maybe, just maybe, that's how it's supposed to feel." In his embrace, I felt a quiet strength, a promise of new beginnings whispered in the hush of the night. I knew there were no guarantees, but right then, in his arms, I dared to hope. I looked up at him, the filtered sunlight casting mottled shadows across his face, giving him an almost ethereal glow. I could feel the warmth of his hand as it shifted in mine, his thumb slowly stroking the back of my palm in a comforting rhythm. I wondered if he could hear how loudly my heart was beating, each thump echoing my growing feelings for him. "I always come here when the world gets too loud," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. I sensed a vulnerability in him that I hadn't noticed before, a tenderness that made me want to draw closer. "It's my place to think, to breathe. And to bring special people?" I teased, trying to lighten the mood, but my voice trembled, betraying my nervousness. His laughter was soft, like the rustle of leaves around us. "Yes, to bring very special people," he affirmed, his gaze locking with mine. It was as if the world stilled around us, the gentle breeze, the distant city sounds, all fading into the background. I felt a pull, a desire to remain in this moment forever. As I leaned into him, his other hand came up to gently caress my cheek, and I closed my eyes, savoring the touch of his skin against mine. I opened my eyes to find his face inches from mine. I could feel his breath mingling with mine, a sweet, tentative dance that sent shivers down my spine. I searched his eyes, looking for a sign, any indication of what this meant to him. "You make me forget," he murmured, his eyes reflecting a storm of emotions. "Forget my fears, my doubts." I swallowed hard, my own fears bubbling up. "And if I'm just another mistake?" I asked, my voice a mere whisper, laden with the weight of my past, the shadows of decisions that haunted me. "You're not a mistake," he said firmly, his hands framing my face now, making sure I was hearing every word. "You're a chance. A chance for something real, something lasting." I felt my heart swell, a surge of hope washing over me. I leaned in, closing the space between us, and his lips met mine. The kiss was gentle at first, exploratory, as if we were both unsure. But then it deepened, grew more urgent, as all our pent-up feelings spilled over. We sat side by side on the bench now, our fingers entwined, both of us catching our breath. I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling an immense sense of peace. The sun had begun to set, streaking the sky with hues of orange and pink, a beautiful end to an unforgettable day. "I don't know what happens next," I admitted, the uncertainty of the future looming large. But I felt anchored, safe beside him. "Neither do I," he replied. "But I know I want to find out with you." His voice was steady, sure, and I believed him. I felt a smile spread across my face, my earlier apprehensions melting away. I didn't have all the answers, and perhaps I never would. But as I watched the sunset, the colors reflecting in his eyes, I realized some questions were better left unanswered. For now, I had today, I had him, and that was enough. As we stood to leave, he squeezed my hand. "Let's not worry about the future," he suggested. I nodded, squeezing back. "Just one day at a time," I agreed. And together, we walked out of the park, the dusk wrapping around us like a promise, a shared journey just beginning.